Pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition, another episode of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this, and it's full. Coach Luna Wells, former Southern University offensive lineman, now offensive line coach of the New York Giants, will join me first, talking about his time spent at Southern University, beginning of his coaching career, and what the future holds for Coach Wells. Following Coach Wells, Coles Brown Show NCAA basketball consultant, Coach Van Pettaway, joins me to talk about the three-point line being moved distance to international distance and how that will impact, his opinion, NCAA college basketball. Also, get perhaps a little bit of talking of the NBA free agency. Then in hour number two, Brandon B. Jones of HBCU Game Day returns our continued conversation. Just simply the early predictions, in his opinion, on the Southwestern Athletic Conference and the MEAC. And then finally, Charles Edmond follows Brandon B. Jones, who will join me in hour number two. As I left the air last week, I asked everyone in the listening audience to keep me and my family in prayers, in their prayers, and because of my father, Reverend Herbert T. Brown Sr. He passed away this past Monday, and I actually continued prayers for me and my family. My dad was very important in my life. He was the ultimate friend as well. So he's journeyed. And I tell you what, when you lose a parent, I've lost my mother and now my father, it changes your whole perspective. But at the end of the day, the Creator is still in charge, and everything will be all right. So I just wanted to let you know about that. I appreciate all the kind words via social media, and I just wanted to say God bless you all. Now, last week, we kind of had an interesting conversation, of course, with Coach Kerry Jackson, who was a guest on the show last week, Southern University's baseball coach, and we talked about his contract extension, the pay raise, and there was also some money via the foundation that he could use up to $25,000 to add to his $103,000 salary. But I didn't give enough time to mention about Coach Funches, who 2-year contract extension, and also his base salary went from $105,000 to $115,000, and $6,000 pool for his assistant. So congratulations, Coach Funches. And boy, when you talk about Coach Funches in year one as a head coach, but being with the program at Southern University for numerous years, he sets the bar high. He wins the SWAC tournament championship and makes it to the NCAA tournament. Coach Jackson in year two wins the championship and gets to the NCAA regional. So the bar is set high, and now going forward, it'll be those respective coaches' job and their assistants to kind of keep pace. You can't win championships every year, but alums and fans, they want to be in the conversation every year. And to some, they expect to win championships every year. So kudos to both coaches, and I look forward to having Coach Funches on real soon. I have extended an invite to Coach Roman Banks, the Director of Athletics at Southern University. Hopefully we'll hear something very soon as far as getting him on. Now, I just, as always, I just want to introduce the producer of the Colors Brown Show, if I may. He is, I simply call him Brother Michael Prince. Sometimes I say Dr. Brother Michael Prince. But, Brother Prince, good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother, and our condolences with you and the family. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And I know where you're at, man, but and to God be the glory. And it's still a lovely day. It's still a lovely day. And we're thanking God for the memories.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that. And once again, appreciate all of the kind words. Sometimes you can really feel and know the impact of a person in your life is judged by their effect on other people's lives. And so when you leave this earth, you've left it in a better place, or you tried to make it a better place. That's a great thing as well. This past week, you had the commissioner on, Dr. Charles McClellan. Got a chance to listen to that outstanding interview as well. But, man, there's some interesting things going on in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And at the end of the day, we want to see the conference be the best that it can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And sometimes, we want to go. We may have ways, different paths to get there. But at the end of the day, that's the objective. How this conference can become the best that it can. So Dr. McClellan is a tough job. And he has some assistance. But at the end of the day, he'll be the judge. His legacy, his tenure at the Southwest National Conference will be judged on how he became commissioner and did he and his assistants leave it at the end of the day in a better situation than they found it when they first got there. So it'll be interesting to see about the schedules, television schedules, and football is in there in a couple of about 2-3 weeks.
Oh yeah, as I say,
football media day.
Yeah, it's going to be live and live in color, man, and I can't wait to have our tag team duo from Birmingham. But when you talk about the commissioner, and one thing that I always learn, things are challenging when there's a change, and then there are also realizations that some things are not maybe as bad as we may have thought. They were bad, but wasn't as bad as you had thought. And you got to try to look at the situation from both ends of the spectrum. Some people's style of leadership vary way different from others, and some appear to be slow and methodical, and others appear to be right out the gate. But when you understand anything about relationships and building long-term relationships, there could be, and I'm not saying this is the case in the current situation, things have turned around rather quickly. And we want to give all credit to the commissioner, McClellan, and all that he's gotten achieved within this first year at the helm. But you got to ask yourself, were there some things in motion to help the expedition of this transition? I know some of the ideas are, going to be creative, and it's just like anything in leadership. When you're leading any organization, no matter how small or large it is, you're going to get a lot of credit when things are going great, and then you'll also get a lot of credit when things are not going so great in the eyes of the beholder.
Well, I would agree with that. Anything else on board that the commissioner talked about that maybe surprised you?
I would think the ESPN part of it, and I understand it 1,000% on why we do what we do, but I understand that the investments that are required, and if you're going to spend that kind of money, you want it to be received well. You want the brand to be well, but there are some key words that have been triggering off for me throughout this whole transitional period. Is we understand our worth, and we know the value that we bring to the table. And I don't care what goes on, but ownership to me is always going to be a key factor. And if I can own something and the uniqueness of the brand that we have that's associated throughout the nation, it might not in the eye of the beholder attract the big sexy corporate sponsor, but it does have an attraction, and there are more people who could benefit from partnering with us and our brand that would be willing to spend the necessary dollars where it could be a win-win situation on both sides. And I think when we talk about that low-hanging fruit, there are a lot of low-hanging fruits within the regions and that our institutional schools reside in. And I think we need to look at approaching and tapping into those. Toyota, awesome. The Coca-Cola deals are awesome. Those big known brands are awesome. But there are a lot of successful brands that want to spend money and partner with the likes of a SWAC or a MEAC. And I think we need to really study those areas and tap into those areas. You might not get that $10 million sponsor right off the bat, but you could get probably $1 million sponsors. And $10 million is still $10 million when you look at the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, we'll monitor the situation and give you reports as we can as to Southwestern Athletic Conference. It should be a great upcoming season, and we'll monitor that situation as well. SWAC Football Media Day coming up July 16th. It's fast approaching. Keep it locked right here. We'll let you know everything leading up to that, and actually today we'll kind of start doing a little football talk as well in the conference. So with that being said, I'm going to take a time out. When I come back, I'll visit with Coach Linda Wells of the New York Giants, former Southern University offensive lineman. He's coming up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic broadcast and Spreaker.com. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Going to visit with the first guest of today's show, former Southern University offensive lineman, now coaching in the NFL with the New York Giants, Coach Lunda Wells. Coach, good morning to you.
Hey, Carlos, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing all right. I'm blessed and appreciate to have you on the show. Coach, if I could, I want to start with your time spent at Southern University and let the audience know the years that you played and just talk about your time spent at Southern University.
Yeah, my time at Southern University is one that, I'll never forget. Because of the opportunity to go to a historically black university was great for me. Also, I met my beautiful and lovely wife there at Southern University at the time I was there, which we've been married for now 10 years and had 2 kids, 2 little girls, Adanya and Zalika. And also for the opportunity to play collegiate football there underneath the legendary Pete Richardson and have the opportunity to win a black college national championship and a SWAC championship and just a ton of memories, from 2002 to 2005, where I started for 4 years. And it was great for me. It was really great for me, a great opportunity, learned a lot. And, again, the experiences and the memories that I gained there have been going with me for all my life.
Coach, a lot of times when a player leaves the university, maybe they don't have as much time as they would like to spend with their alma mater, but do you get a chance to kind of keep in touch with Southern University now that you've, moved on with your career?
Yeah, I've tried to do it as best as I can. I hadn't had a chance to go to a game in maybe probably a decade now because obviously I'm in coaching. I was coaching at LSU from 2008 season to 2011 season, then here with the Giants since then, going into year 8 with the New York Giants as the tight ends coach this past couple of years. So I hadn't, my time to be able to go down there and see games, hadn't been able to do that. But when I'm in town, when I come in town to visit my family there in Baker, I try to pop my head in over there and see who I can see and touch, whatever student athlete in terms of conversation that I can. I hadn't been there a lot, but, surely I'm there in spirit.
Yeah, I can understand that, visiting with Coach Lunda Wells of the New York Giants. Still coaching the offensive line, correct? At the Giants, or if you moved on?
I moved from the offensive line, assistant line coach to tight end. So last year was my first year as a tight end coach, and going into year 2 as a tight ends coach here at the Giants.
Big difference, or still some similarities?
When you look at the tight end position is broken down into 3 different components. So you have the run blocking and then the pass protection component. So there's a similarity in terms of my background, in terms of offensive line play. And then the third component is that of a wide receiver. So then that was the new learning for me, learning the ins and outs of the receiver play. So it's 3 components, and I had the first 2 down and learned the third phase in terms of the receiving side of it, and it's been very fun coaching those guys.
Well, offensive linemen, tight ends, and I know a lot of times you hear conversations on the national sports talk shows, and particularly on the collegiate level, that the tight end now is not really part of the offense. It's like it used to be. But isn't it's kind of different in the NFL, correct? The tight end is relevant.
Yes, yeah, and even in college, you look at the different universities, they utilize tight ends, but they play them a little bit different in terms of what fits their scheme that they're running. A lot of these spread offenses, space the tight ends out, detach them. They're not playing them as your traditional wide tight end with their hand in the ground, being multiple in the run game and pass game. They're kind of more isolated to the pass game because of the scheme dictating that as being a spread offense. So when you get into the NFL, we're a little bit more conventional. You know, we attach our tight ends, we detach our tight ends. They're a little bit more multiple in terms of what we're asking them to do. So the training curve, you got to, then start the training curve in terms of being able to do a little bit of everything once they get to college, once they get to the NFL from college. So it's a little bit different, but these guys, are athletes, and that's the bottom line. As long as they're athletes and they know how to learn and they know how to work hard, it's not a hard thing to get those guys acclimated to what we're asking them to do in the NFL.
Visiting with Coach Lunda Wells, Coach at the New York Giants. Now I'm so accustomed to saying offensive line, but now I moved on coaching tight ends. I'm gonna get to your beginning of coaching as far as your career, but when I always get former players and coaches that were at Southern University, I kind of always like to ask them. They've got a lot of memories, I'm sure, but is there any special achievement that kind of stood out for you when you were playing at Southern University?
A lot of people might want to, a lot of people a lot of times they're thinking as players, they be quick to go and say, my accolades are when I, made all conference and, this, that, and third. But I'm one that thinks about team and the camaraderie of team. The team, football is one of the best team sports that you can play. And when we won the national championship in 2003, really stood out. It really stands out in my mind. It was great feeling, great moment. But what made it so much more special was the memories that was built, in that summer of us training with Coach Hall, Zeus Thomas Hall, and Coach Morris, Coach Dennis Morris. The training that we put in that summer, and it was a hot summer. If you ask my dad today, he'll still reflect to a hot summer, and we was out there running those 110s, and he used to come out and watch us practice. And one day it was so hot, he just thought somebody wasn't gonna make it, and those memories of running those 110s in the stadium and running the bluff back there on the back of the campus.
Oh.
Those memories made that moment of us winning the national championship so much greater, so much sweeter. So I would have to say those two memories: the summer in terms of the hard work that we put in, and then us transitioning that hard work into the team chemistry, the team building, to us winning the national championship in 2003. Were probably the two most important sports moments that I had there at Southern University.
Coach Wells, your career coaching, was it something that you initially thought that you would get into and become a coach? Kind of talk about the beginning and how that decision went. When you play college football, everybody wants to play in the NFL. Right.
But, once I got to the realization that, hey, me, I kind of, I always say, use the analogy, I maximized all the talent and all the ability that God gave me, And once I came to that realization that, hey, I've done my justice, done my due diligence by the talent that God's given me, then I said, hey, what's next? And so I was about to go into federal DA because I have my master's degree in criminal justice. I graduated with that. But then there was a hiring freeze. So then I started coaching high school football at Scotlandville High School. Coach Davis, Howard Davis, gave me my first opportunity. And from there, I transitioned. I was, coaching there and kind of got the feel of seeing colleges and stuff because, I had a good player, Dallas Thomas, played for me at Scotlandville, and he was going visiting some of the universities, going to some of the games, and I kind of got the itch to want to go and coach in college. So I went to LSU and kind of started volunteering in the off season, working in the recruiting room, doing the labels for the recruiting board, just to get in the building. So I volunteered for maybe about 6 months. And by the time June came around, Coach Miles, he created a spot for me as working with the offensive line as an intern. And that was kind of my start, but it took me to volunteer to get to that point of him creating a spot for me. So my dad always used the term sweat equity. I had to put in a little sweat equity to get the opportunity to, actually get paid. So my first year I made like $12,000, $12,000.
Wow.
I made that for 2 years, with a wife. And we had a newborn daughter, Danya. And so I leaned on my wife heavily. You know, she was working at the planning commission, so it was fortunate that, you know, she had a good job, and so that allowed us the opportunity to make some sacrifices like that. And but, you know, years went by, 2 years went by, and then next two came along, and before you know it, Coach had me created another role for me. You know, he gave me assistant to the head coach and assistant special teams. So it kind of, you know, went upward for me from that point, and still here today, and got an opportunity to come here and work with the New York Giants, which is a blessing, and been able to withstand that and be here for, you know, going into my 8th season with three different head coaches. So we're very fortunate family from that standpoint.
Yeah, you have favor.
Yeah,
this is the last part you just said. I mean, I remember sitting at home and head coaching position, and, you know, became open at the New York Giants, and I immediately thought about you. But hey, you're still there, and that is truly a blessing. We watch NFL on TV, the majority of us, but of course you're coaching there. Is it? I guess we see the flamboyancy of it, the out part of it, what we see on television, but behind the scenes, I'm sure during the week there are meetings, and it's a business. It's what we should remember. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know, in professional sports, in particular in the National Football League, we always use the term, it's the bottom line business. You know, it's about winning and it's about losing. If you're winning, you keep a job. If you're losing, you lose a job. You know, and there's no in between. You know, and so it's a lot of work that goes into it. You know, leading up to the season, you know, the guys go through an 8-week off-season program where they kind of get back acclimated to the system, get back acclimated to the training, and then they break away for a few weeks, and then we come back to training camp, and then, you know, from the end of July to hopefully, you know, the beginning part of February, you want to be playing football. It's a long season, it's a journey, there's a lot that goes into it, you know, on a daily basis. You know, guys go from we wake up and go to meetings, then from meetings to practice, and then from practice to some more meetings. And, you know, then they're gone. But then when they're gone, you know, coaches, we stay and we're planning the next phase of the game plan. So it's tons of hours. You know, some days you might work 18 hours out the day, you know, as a coach, preparing for the next opponent. And, you know, it's a grind, but, you know, it's a great profession to be in, and it is a business, and it is, you know, the bottom line business. It's about winning and losing.
Visiting with Coach Linda Wells of the New York Giants. Where does Coach Wells, Linda Wells, where is he going to be? Maybe say 5 to 10 years from now. Future coaching. Is there a goal to be a head coach somewhere?
Yeah. You know, my biggest thing is, you know, where Linda Wells will be. Ideally, Linda Wells want to be where the Lord wants me to be at. You know, I believe strongly in my faith in terms of God having a plan for me and my family. So ideally, you know, I want to be where He wants me to be at. You know, and you know, saying that, you know, you have desires. You know, my desire is to be a head coach in the National Football League, and you know, but it all reverts back to, you know, what God wants, where God wants me at, and I'm a firm believer that He said in His Word that He'll give you the desires of your heart. So my desire is to be a head coach in the National Football League, but ultimately I want to be where He wants me to be at, and kind of just walk in His favor and His grace, you know, through this path in my career.
Yeah, because and I understand your points. It could be the Creator wants you to be a head football coach. It may be in the collegiate level.
Yeah.
You know, hey. I'm sure the possibility of that, you would be open to that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just so excited to go into this next season here at the New York Giants. We have a tremendous team. The guys worked their behind off this past off season, preparing for this coming season, and we're very eager to get back out in the field coming up here in July and get going and get this thing going in the right direction.
Well, Mr. Beckham is not there. A tremendous football player, moved on. Sometimes when things like that happen, the team, hey, they become closer, and hey, everyone is 0-0 at this point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll see what happens with the New York Giants, and we have a lot of Dallas fans for some reason that listens, and even in Baton Rouge. Oh boy, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
they have a good fanfare, and, like you say, I mean every team, every team has talent in the NFL, and that's why they use the term any given Sunday, and you got a guy that's making $15 million on your team. They got a guy making $15 million on somebody else's team because we all have good players, and it's just about who plays the best, who's better prepared, and who wants it more come Sunday. So we'll a great run at it.
That's a good point, and I will say this. Of course, I'm a Saints fan.
Have you
Prince, who's a producer, he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I don't think the Giants play either one. Am I wrong on that?
No, we don't play either one. We could meet the Saints in the playoffs. But have you healed from the playoffs, the past playoffs? I asked you that question.
Oh, good one.
Hey,
you're a Southern alum and I'm a Southern alum, so I won't throw up my fist there because
that was tough.
That's a good one, Coach. And let me answer that. It will take a few more years. For me to get over that, and then the year before that against Minnesota.
That was tough too. My wife being from New Orleans, she's from Abreu, so I had to do a lot of consoling for her, and I think I got her just about back, after once she saw that New York Giants was paying out bills and stuff, then she quickly got over it. So she move on.
Yeah, don't rub it in. Just you were there for her. The pain is still tremendous in the heart. and you know what, Coach Wells? The window of opportunity, I think it's
small.
It's very. There you go. Oh, I'm ready to shout.
Yep.
It's small.
Every year's a different year, and every year's a different year.
And there's no guarantee that the success that happened last year, and if you look at it, the year before that, it just did not end well. But guess what? The Rams, whoa, boy. And they play. I'll just leave it at that. No, it's going to take a while, Coach.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to take a while, but I wasn't expecting that. That was a right cross. On that note, we appreciate the time. We're proud of you and the work that you've done, the success that you have had, and will continue to have. And have a great weekend. We'll hopefully get a chance to talk to you real soon before you get real busy.
Absolutely. Anytime, Carlos. Again, I'm proud of you in terms of, you maintaining your show and being diligent. You have a great show. You have a great audience. Great guests on your show, and you keep doing the great work that you're doing down that way. And like always, go Jags.
All right, appreciate it, Coach Luna Wells of the New York Giants. Boy, that was Brother Prince, you just couldn't control yourself back there, huh?
I'm sorry, man. That was like, wow, that was epic moment right there, man. But at least he finished it with "Go Jags."
Yeah, and but I'm telling you, I don't think it will be some time before I can recover for that.
Well, to be quite honest with you, if I had said that, I think it'd have been some furniture moving.
No, sometimes it's not in the cards. You're right there. You're right there, and then you don't cross over.
Yeah,
you don't cross over.
Yeah. But I tell you what, if it's any
2 weeks later, 3 points. Come on, give me a break.
But I tell you what, if it's any consolation for you, my beloved Steelers play the Rams this year, and we host them, and we'll take care of them for you. How about that?
Yeah.
Does that make you feel better? Does it make you feel a little bit better?
Not really, but go ahead. Oh boy, the wound has reopened. I thought it had healed,
but it was one of your own. It was one of your own that opened the wound back up, brother. It wasn't me now.
But you know what? Sometimes it's your own that will make you see the light. On that note,
it was more than some light, brother. That was everything.
Oh, blinded by the light, a haymaker, and let's remember who pays his checks.
There you go.
The Giants.
There you go.
And that's the way it is. So I understand that. So I was going to say good luck to every game except if they play the Saints. I didn't have to come to that. Unbelievable.
It's going to be all right, man. I promise you it's going to be all right.
Oh, yeah. Look, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. How about that? On that note, take a quick time out, and when I come back, Coach Pettaway, Van Pettaway, Coach Brown Show basketball consultant, just want to check in with him briefly. The impact on the three-point line moving to the international distance. You think it's going to be a major impact in college basketball in year one, medium, slight impact, and then in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Everyone's recruiting well, at least on the women's side, men and the men. What impact will that have on scoring and basketball? And then actually, Coach Pettaway said what's piqued his interest also is NBA free agency. And on that note, my team, the Miami Heat, they don't have any cap money, so I don't see them participating at all. But there's some other big names out there. So we'll talk about that with Coach Van Pettaway. That's coming up next. Take a time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. After a couple of body blows and a right hook by Coach Wells on that Saints loss to the Rams, I've bounced back, though. And welcome back to this week's edition right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Next guest is our NCAA basketball slash swag basketball consultant, Coach Van Pettaway. Coach, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you here as well. News a few weeks ago, the three-point line is moving back. The NCAA committee approved it to the international distance. What impact, in your opinion, will it have on college basketball and including the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a drastic change. I think what it's going to do is separate those wannabe three-point shooters from the real guys that can put that shot down. It's going to stretch the floor, and then what it also does, it gives all the players familiarity, because I think that's one of the things that they were looking to do, because the international rule was already further back. Not everybody's playing on the same playing field, so when our guys play against or go to international games, they'll be familiar with the shot, because that was something that they were doing differently. And since we're using our NBA guys now in the Olympics and some of the other World Cups, they were accustomed to shooting that distance anyway, because the NBA three is back there. But this will help bring the college game in line. And really what it has to do, to me, the best way to do it, needs to go down to high school also. So, because what it'll be, everybody will be shooting the same shot, all the way through. Because in international ball, when you go over there, all the high schools, they're already shooting that international shot. Yeah. And that's why some of those guys come into the league so advanced when it comes to perimeter play, because they've been playing it all their lives. And we don't get to different distance until you get to the collegiate level or you go to the NBA, or because our high school kids used to struggle with that shot when we were using them for those games. But once they started using the pros, of course, that was already in play for them. But I think in the SWAC, what you'll do is the guys are doing it. They already got the lines. They're putting lines down now. Even if they haven't put the permanent lines down, people have already put some lines down. And since you can work your players out over the summer, they're already taking those shots. I've been up to A&M Alabama A&M a few times, and they're shooting that shot. So they're getting adjusted. They're getting adjusted. It'll open it up. It'll open up to me for more driving space, more people getting to the paint. Because if you're going to defend it, that means you're further out.
And with you saying that, do you also think there will be a sub-impact with the post people? If the idea is to kind of open things up, teams that rely totally or a lot on the three-point shot, will some teams now add going back to the post play, or will it post and outside kind of work together?
Well, I think that, first of all, you got to find a real post player, because in today's game, that's far and in between, because most of the kids now, even in AAU ball, all your bigs are stretching the floor. So everybody's got them playing on the perimeter because of this, the dribble drive and all of that kind of stuff. But so I think the people who have always played with back to the basket players, they're going to continue doing that. And it'll make the game a little easier for them, because they got that defender, that weak side help, or that help defender has further to come to try to double team.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Coach, what has become kind of very non-traditional and scary, but it's the norm now, as you talked about it. Stretch fours. You have centers now that are adept at that shooting outside. And I guess if you're old school, you kind of miss that interior play. But, hey, sometimes you got to adjust. And, wow, stretch four. Never thought I would hear of that term. But now you find it on collegiate level and the NBA.
Yep. That's what the game is going to.
I think it's going to stay that way, Coach.
Oh yeah.
Traditional basketball, if we can use that term, I think it'll never be the same again. Well, with the Southwestern Athletic Conference, if you can remember, teams that shot the ball well from the 3-point line, I guess they'll continue to try to, shoot well from a distance. But I think also, Coach, maybe you will see, maybe for some teams, you might see the percentage come down a little bit until they kind of, get adjusted to it.
You're right. That's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen. But the more they get a chance to practice it and take those shots, and the percentages, they'll come back. They'll come back. And I think the other thing that you might find is you might find coaches putting the reins on some players. Like some of the kids that shot it last year, they may not have them shooting them this year. Because if they were struggling with the line where it was, they're gonna struggle with it being further back.
Yeah,
I know that's what I would do as a coach. If a kid was struggling last year, he definitely wouldn't have the green light this year.
And I'm trying to remember, Coach, which teams in the conference, shot. I guess I could pull it up. Shot, decent numbers from a 3-point range. If we look at it, Prairie View defending champions, do you see them having a major impact with the distance being moved back? Or
I think they were going to have a problem anyway, because I think they, out of the seniors that they're losing, I think a lot of their 3-point shooting left with them. So I think it's going to depend on who they brought in this year.
Mm.
Yeah, for Prairie View, I think that's going to be the difference.
And we
but they did use it now. Yeah, remember now, they stretched the floor a lot now.
Yeah, but to your point though, if you're losing a lot, you have time to find out who will be the replacements. And we kind of been talking about this from a men's team perspective. How about on the women's side? Same thing?
Oh, yeah, certainly. But I didn't know if the women agreed with the move, though.
Okay.
But if the women have to go back to that, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. But what you have, though, you got enough time. That's what this summer's for. And, being able to do the individual workouts, that's the kids that get a chance to get in the gym and they'll start shooting that shot. So that, the first time they see it won't be in the fall, because most teams they stay together for the summer. Most of the kids are in summer school.
Right.
Because I know for a fact that at Alabama A&M, their entire team is there except for a couple of kids that are doing 2 interns. Yes.
And then a lot of teams, at least some, they stay together. You're right, and they go play over, internationally. And that kind of helps your team. Like I remember Southern a few years ago went down to I believe it was Puerto Rico and played some semi-pro team. So it's kind of like football now. It's a year-round process, and if you can keep them up,
right.
Yeah,
and I remember we took my team to took one of my teams to Mexico, and we played 5 games over there in 2 weeks. So and it helps. It helps keeping your kids together. And see, back then we didn't have the summer workouts, so that was real important for us, because we got that 2 weeks of practice in, and then you go over there and you play 5 games, and that helps your team. But the summer workouts, I think that's great for college basketball, especially in the SWAC, because we really need to work when it comes to our kids. So being able to get your kids in the gym and get them to work together and work on individual skills, I think that's a great thing.
And speaking of great things, Coach Pettaway, if I'm not mistaken, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. McClellan, you know how previous years you had a teleconference at the beginning of the season. If I'm not mistaken, they're talking about doing like football media day and bringing the coaches in and, you know, having a setup like that. And I think that would be, in my humble opinion, very good if they're able to accomplish this.
Right. I think it's good for the coaches because that's how you get to know your fellow coaches and stuff. I hope they do go through with that because it would be great for basketball because that if you don't do that, that means that the only time you see that coach is when you're facing them in a game. And then, you know, that a lot of times that's not a great time to sit and talk to a guy about his family and, you know, to get into personal things. So being in a setting like that gives those guys a chance to really know each other. And I think it's great.
Yeah, I think so too. Visiting with Coach Van Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Coach, switch gears quickly. We've got about 7 minutes left. Okay. And as always, appreciate your time. And speaking of time and being together, this free agency is just going to be maddening in the NBA. Just running off names, Kevin Durant and an Achilles tendon. Ouch, I had mine cut before, not ruptured. Is it possible he's going to be out a whole year one, and then there's still a demand for his services? Talk about that, and then there are others. Where are some of the superstars going to end up, or do they ultimately stay where they're at?
Well, you know what? It's going to be a toss-up. But let's talk about Durant. Well, you know, you'd be crazy not to take a gamble on Durant because, you know, some people say that an Achilles injury is a death sentence. I don't think so. I think because of his body makeup, that he'll be able to bounce back from it because, number one, he's not a real big guy. He's just tall. So I think right. So I think that if they, which I know they're going to have the best rehab possible, they're doing it now, that he'll be back and he'll be ready to play. But now where he's going, that's a toss-up because like this morning, already here, breaking news, now they're saying that Durant and Kyle Leonard want to play together. You know, that's the first time we've heard that combination now. You know, it's always been Durant and the point guard wanting to play together. Kyrie Irving, right, that they wanted to play together. But now here, within the last hour, they say that KD and Kawhi Leonard are discussing going to the same team. And then you don't know where that team is because of the salary cap. You don't know who can afford both of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. But Leonard, you know, Leonard's got a handful of people that want him, and I think he's narrowed his choices down to who he's going to interview with. So it's going to be interesting, and everything's will start tomorrow night at 6:00. That's the deadline. I mean, that's when it opens. Right. And so, and right now, from what you're already hearing, we know the Warriors are going to re-sign Klay Thompson. You know, they're going to make an offer to him. So it'll shake out, but I think Durant and Leonard will determine how this free agency is going to go. Because where they go, that's when the mad scramble starts.
You know, if you'd asked me 10 minutes ago, I would say Leonard. And I still kind of feel this way. I think he's not going to be back in Toronto. And believe it or not,
I feel the same way.
Because he won a title his first year there, I think he's gone. But
yeah, you know, I agree with you. Yeah, that's my opinion also.
And because I'm in Louisiana, and I still get emails that why I don't support the Pelicans instead of the Miami Heat. We won't even talk about the Heat. They're irrelevant right now. Anthony Davis finally gets his wish, and he's gone to the Lakers. The Pelicans, they have a chance to rebuild with some young players, with a mixture of some veterans. I will say this, Coach, and get your thoughts on it. I think the Heat should do the same thing, what the Pelicans are doing, just kind of, you know, But for Miami, they've got to just tear down and rebuild totally. But they've got some pieces there. But Pelicans, where do you see them 4 years from now?
I think they're the team of the future. They got some nice young pieces coming in there, and the trade with the Lakers gave them some established NBA guys who are still youthful, and then of course with getting Zion to come in there, I think that they're just a couple pieces away from being a contender. And in 3 or 4 years, that's going to be a tough group to deal with now because they're so athletic. They're so athletic, and then with Zion, I think he's going to be a beast in the NBA because he'll be able to play more physical, and I think that's the kind of game that will elevate him. So they're on the right track. And then when it comes to Miami, you're right. Miami needs to rebuild. They need to do the same thing. They got a great starting piece with Whitehead, and they need to get some more people in there to go around them.
Could you do me a favor? Do you know Pat Riley?
Yeah, we need to give him.
Can you talk to him and tell him it's time to rest?
Yep.
And turn that over to some young blood. And as you said, rebuild. But Pat Riley's the godfather.
That's what I was just going to say. He's one of the better people in the NBA when it comes to putting together a team. So Pat will do the right thing. A lot of times we can sit out and say they need to get this person or that person, but until you understand that salary cap, a lot of times you can't make moves that you really want or you think that's best because of the salary cap.
Well, Coach, Miami is over the salary cap. They're trying to get in. That's why I know they can't really. And to your point, I understand what you're saying. They are not in a position to really do anything till this time next year. It would be better, but I'm gonna stick with them. That's my team. I'll ride, and die with them.
Well, that's a good thing. But this free agency this year is going to be one of the best that we've had in quite some time because you got a lot of quality players out there that are looking to make a home. And then while we're talking, everybody's still trying to figure out what Butler's going to do at Philadelphia. He's got a good mix of talent at Philly, but nobody's sure if he even really wants to stay there yet. So a lot of things will be answered starting tomorrow at 6:00. Yeah,
well, you're right, and I still got to figure out. Boy, Golden State just had some untimely
injury. Yep.
My goodness. It'll be interesting to sit back and kind of speculate if nobody gets hurt, would it have been the same results? But I guess that's up for debate, and that'll be a conversation people, I guess, continue to have. But we do know the Toronto Raptors were the 2019 champions. Coach, we appreciate the time, as always.
Sure, man.
And it'll be basketball season before you know it.
Oh, yes. Yep, and I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to another good year, and let's keep them chattering.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the time. Have a great weekend, and continue that golf game.
All right, take care.
All right.
All right, take care, fellas. Bye-bye.
That was Coach Van Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. I have straight up 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So, with that being said, take a time out. When I come back, I'll visit with Brandon B.J. Jones. Talk a little SWAC and MEAC football. Early predictions, or is it the too early predictions? No, I don't think it's too early. It's just early. SWAC Football Media Day is coming up. Who do you think is going to get picked on paper to win it all? You know. It's going to be Alcorn gets picked to win it all. But the West will be a very interesting race. Who can at least put up some competition in the East? Will it be Jackson State? And please, do not say Alabama A&M is a dark horse again. Please don't. Just let's predict where you think they're going to be. Okay? I've been hearing about Alabama and them for 3 years. You know, is it the time? In the West, can Coach Dooley come out firing again and sustain it? Biggest question for me is O-line and D-line. Skill positions, receivers, DBs, but it's one in the trenches. And can Southern University get over the hump? Those are questions that will be answered eventually. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
How you doing? This is Mike Prince, the radio guy. I want to thank you so much for joining us on our daily content and programming, and serve as a reminder that you can listen to the Carlos Brown Show live here on the network 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time each and every Saturday. Carlos Brown is a seasoned, legendary sports talk show host based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but we're not going to hold that against him. Join the Carlos Brown Show live on the Open Mic Broadcast Network 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Hour number 2 of the Carlos Brown Show starts right now, right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Visiting now with HBCU Game Days, Brandon B.J. Jones. B.J., good morning to you, sir.
Man, good morning, Carlos, man. How's it going?
It's going. It's been a tough week, but guess what? We're going to make it. We're going to make it. We're going to make it. Talk some football. They have these lists about too early predictions. Well, I'll take the too early predictions out of the equation for this segment. Kind of want to talk with you about the SWAC and MEAC, kind of predictions going into respective media days, of course, in the Southwestern Athletic Conference coming up July 16th. I posed some comments, and I'll pass them on to you. Can anybody in the East, in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, be competitive and at least give Alcorn State 2 quarters of a battle? Anybody in the East? What do you say about that, Brandon?
I would say yeah. I mean, because if you look at a year ago, I mean, Alcorn was tested for over a half by Alabama A&M. They actually dropped homecoming to Alabama State. No one saw that coming.
Yeah,
so Alabama State got them. And then if you go back and you look at the Jackson State game down there on the reservation, that was a ball game up until, midway through the third quarter. So, yes, there's some teams in the East that could give Alcorn a run. There are some teams in the East that we can see if Alcorn plays not up to their potential, they could lose to. And I want to say that this year, I think Alabama A&M will be better. It looks like on paper that Jackson State might be a little bit better. So I don't think that stroll through the East is as easy as we like to make it for Alcorn.
Well, here's why Brother Prince is enjoying himself. In the background, I can hear him. Before you came on, and we're just going to put it out there, I said Alabama A&M, do not tell me they're a dark horse team. They've had some opportunities. Coach Maynard now, second year at
number 2.
And Brandon, if you disagree, I understand. Alabama A&M, it's just something about them. Until I see it, then I believe it. Now, what you said are very valid points. How can I be convinced that Alabama A&M you can really say this is the year to watch out. They've got a legitimate shot at Alcorn State.
I will say for this season for Alabama A&M,
Mm-hmm.
you will know early. They got Morehouse to open up the season up in Ohio. If people going to listen, they go, oh man, Morehouse Division 2, man. Morehouse returns a lot from a team that was a game away from going to the SIAC championship game. They had an epic collapse towards the end of the year a year ago. Running back is back, quarterback is back, a lot on their defense is back. There'll be a little test, but if that doesn't, whet your appetite enough, they have to go to North Alabama the following week. They get a home game early against Arkansas Pine Bluff. Then they have to go back on the road down to Birmingham and play Sanford out of the SoCon. You will know within the first 4 games, is Alabama A&M, will they compete with Alcorn? Will they contend for each division title? Or will this just be another Alabama A&M 5-6 win season? You'll know that within a month.
And if they're 1-3, I don't think it's still a chance where you can say the season's over with. But to your point, you're saying the early part of the season, you will know if they have that to get there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You'll see what kind of team they have, just because the test that they will have in the early going. If they would come out of that stretch with a 3-1 record, I think the Bulldog Nation feels a little bit more confident about Alcorn, right, compared to if they come out of that with a 1-3 record.
Yeah, and even a 2-2.
Yeah,
would give some hope there. Coach Hendricks, Jackson State, and after we kind of discussed the East and the West, put you on the spot a little bit, if you can. If you need more time and are not ready this time, I kind of want to see Brandon B.J. Jones pre-Southwestern Athletic Conference Media Day prediction. But Jackson State, in a nutshell, overall, defensively, always strong. Coach Hendrick is a defensive football specialist. Outstanding transfer on paper coming in. Well, I say on paper, but outstanding. Are they a year or two away, though, in the Eastern Division? Or could they contend right away, and if things fall the right way, they could have.
I think Jackson State is in the position where they might be a year away. Mm-hmm. If you look at what they did last year, defensively, Jackson State was nice. They looked more like that dark side defense that we saw for years up there in Jackson, Mississippi. They looked closer to that. But they, offensively, it was atrocious. It was a revolving door at quarterback. The offensive line wasn't the strongest. You saw the philosophy offensively change mid-year from, let's just kind of toss it around all over the place to let's go to the ground and pound. I think this year with Coach Hendrick, he's done some upgrades to the roster. I think it's still, when you lose for so long, there's a culture of losing in your locker room. Because you got a bunch of kids that's been around the program that hadn't won. And the smallest things in the ball game can get them to duck in their heads. They don't even have to be down. And they can have a lead, and now the score's tied, and already the heads are down. Winning is an attitude and a culture just like losing is. And I think they may be a year away. I mean, people talk about the young quarterback that coming in, Jalen Jones. I don't care how good you are. It's different when you start doing it against live bullets and you start doing it against college competition. So I think it might take him maybe, a game, 2, 3, 4 to get adjusted to the speed of the college game.
Visiting with Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU, a game day. Alabama State, I'm just going to be honest with you. When I looked at their schedule for the second year in a row, my goodness, they could be a better team, but the record may not indicate that. Whew. They are tough, and I don't feel sorry for them.
Man, this is
my sympathy.
Man, this is one of those schedules where you look at and you go first 5 games. I have the champion from Conference USA, a traditional black college football powerhouse of Tuskegee. I have Kennesaw State, who was in the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs, champions of the Big South. I have Alcorn State, champions of the SWAC, and then I have traditional SWAC power Grambling, all within the first 5 games. That's probably one of the most toughest stretches that you will see anywhere. And man, you just hope your football team goes through that and their spirits aren't broken by the time you get out of that first 5-week stretch. I mean, that's a lot to ask of a football team. And I talk to Alabama State people, they're just like, hey, if we can get out of there 2-3, we'll count that. If we get out of there 2-3, we'll count that as a win. So, man, I don't know who did the athletic director kind of look at the schedule for booking some of these games, but that's a lot to ask of a football team.
Yeah, well, with the way it is there, you might see somebody new at SWAC Football Media Day in that football coach's seat next year, and it's always a tough situation, but wow, that is tough. And then Valley, just trying to improve, I think is their goal. Again, for a new young coach, beginning in his second year. Mm-hmm. So, they've got some tough non-conference games, but improvement is in store for them. I think will be one of their benchmarks.
Yeah, I mean, for Valley, what you have to do is look, just compete. Compete. I think that Valley did show some nice things a year ago. We talk about how they went down to Grambling and almost pulled that win off. They didn't play Alcorn State bad at the beginning of the year. If you go back and look at that ball game, I think Valley showed some flashes. I think if you coach Dancy and that staff, talk about going into year number 2, you just want to build off what you did a year ago. It's going to be a steady uphill climb. It's going to be incremental at Valley. I don't think it's going to be a situation where you go from 2 wins to 6 and, from 6 to 8. I think it's going to be maybe 2 to 3, to 3 to 5. I think it's going to be incremental growth at Grambling. At Valley.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And now we turn our attention to the West. The social media chat is, the West is tough as usual. You have new coach at Texas Southern University who has really taken advantage of some transfer portal, as some other programs in the Western Division. You got UAPB trying to improve and get better. But if we look at it, all eyes are going to be in 3 spots: Southern University, Grambling State, and Prairie View. Let's start with Southern University. I said before you came on, can they get over the hump? Or maybe a better cliche would be, they made it to the door. Can they kick it in this year?
Hey, I'm excited about this particular season for Southern University. I sat in the interview room after the SWAC title game, and Coach Odom's talked about this. We've gotten here. Now we have to figure out how to kick in the door. And when you start talking about recruiting, when you start talking about the transfer portal, it sure looks like, man, they got a battering ram right there at the door. And this roster looks good. All right, this roster looks good. But games are not won on paper. How many times have we gone into a season and we looked at some rosters and we go, oh, man, they got the Jimmies and the Joes and they look great, and it just don't click during the season. Bama State 2005, Grambling State a year ago. And we got examples of this. Southern University 2004. They got the Jimmies and Joes. Now they have to piece it together. They can avoid the injury bug. You want to look at the development of Ladarius Skelton. Has he developed enough in the passing game where it's going to cause the defenses not to load up the box concentrate on him and Ben and the rest of that backfield running the ball, now you have to respect the passing game. I also think that losing Kimball Catalan was one of my favorite players for the last 2 seasons. I think that's going to hurt. But if you look at what they've brought in some pieces at the wide receiver position from Troy, from Memphis, from Texas State, some FBS transfers that can fill that spot. It's going to be very interesting to see how Southern develops. And the Southern get off to that slow start that they've gotten off to the last few years where, the early part of the season is slow start and then you rack up a win streak October and November going into the Bayou Classic. So it's going to be interesting to see how Southern start and what they look like this year. But there should be no excuses this year. The talent is definitely on the field down on the bluff.
Yeah, and the slow start you mentioned about, well, it's better that they're not playing 2 FBS schools out of the gate like they're accustomed to doing. That's one thing. McNeese State, the opening game, they've got a new coach trying to implement something new there. That's an excellent opportunity. When we just talked about Alabama State with Southern University, after 4 games, if they're 3-1 or 2-2, you kind of still excited. I mean, I know it's a long season, but your point about Skelton is spot on. Has he developed enough? He throw, and Coach Odom's addressed this, at the end of the year. He throws the long pass out. He's outstanding in that phase. But can he make the intermediate throws? And just as you stated, develop the total package because, that's an important point. Last year, I'll bring up the game again against Prairie when he first started. I understand, Brother Fred.
Hold on. I'm just going to interrupt. That's 34, Carlos.
Okay, it'll probably get up to 40, but it'll probably. I'm using it as for a reference point, and then teams, now they know what to expect, and so his development will be crucial. And I'll just add this little piece. You don't have to win the game by yourself. Your athleticism is outstanding, but utilize the pieces around you, and they have some nice pieces around him. And that's just remember that. And as you stated, the recruiting, and then defensively, hey, had a nice streak last year, several games in a row. Then of course we know the struggles against Alcorn and stopping the run. Alcorn's not gonna do anything different. RPOs, and they're gonna run the football. All right, moving away from Southern University, Grambling State University. I would say the overall look for them is to try to get back to what they have accomplished the seasons before. New offensive coordinator, you know him well, Mark Orlando, some returning pieces. What is their mindset, in your opinion, for them coming into this season?
If you're Grambling, you got to get back to doing it the Grambling way. I mean, a year ago, man, we were sitting here talking about the pieces that Grambling brought in. Whether it was, Cherry, was Clark. We talked about all the pieces that Grambling got, brought in, and they got away from doing things the Grambling way. And one of the struggles that they've had for the last couple of years has been that offensive line. The offensive line from Grambling hadn't been good in a while. Even when Devontae Kincaid was a quarterback, Devontae Kincaid was the deodorant that covered up a lot of funk on that offensive line. And when you had a quarterback that maybe was as mobile as Kincaid, it really showed. So Grambling has to get back to that. The secondary play was not the best a year ago. They were susceptible back there. So if you're Grambling, you gotta shore up things, shore up things. But I kind of like the way we talked about Alabama State. Players at Grambling are accustomed to win. Even if they haven't been there, it's Grambling. They're accustomed to winning. Very rarely do you see them have, 2 down years in a row. I like Grambling. I always tell people, don't start shoveling the dirt on Grambling just yet. For you to get Grambling out there, you got to get them out. They're not going to get themselves out. So it's going to be an interesting year for Coach Fobbs and the G-Men. Coach Orlando coming in as an offensive coordinator, very familiar with him. has a great record in the SWAC. We'll see what kind of changes he does to that offense.
Yeah, championship pedigree with Grambling State University. BJ, let me direct this to you. And the listener brings up, I think, an outstanding point. Let me just read it to you. And he's talking about Skelton at Southern University. Is it just his development or the development of the play calling and its efficient execution? Now, BJ, I sent a text back saying both, but we kind of always talk about Skelton and how he needs to improve. I've had this conversation. Chennis Berry, offensive coordinator, and the offensive line coach. What do you think about that? I said both. So, what do you think?
I think that Coach Berry, from offensive coordinator standpoint, I mean, he's done some things in the last couple of years. I'm not gonna lie, that make you go, yeah, during the games. But I will say this: I have watched this play, I know, over 100 times since the SWAC title game, and that goes back to that fourth and I think it was a 4th and 6, 4th and 8. Well, Skelton takes a shot down the field. Mm-hmm. We have a receiver that's down in the curl and the hooks, wide open at 8 yards, and there's no one near him. You make that throw, we get a first down. It changes the complexity of the ball game. So I think when you start playing the quarterback position, the number one important thing about when you play the quarterback position is your feet, and the next thing are your eyes. Skelton never looked over there, never saw him. Neither did the Alcorn State defenders. He was just sitting there at about 8 or 9 yards. You make that throw, and it was an easy throw because there was no one there. That's a first down and more. And I think if you make that throw, we're having a completely different conversation today than we're having right now. So I think it's a hand in hand issue. I think both of those. We want to see both of those develop. Yeah,
because in that championship game, there was some. I understand the element of surprise, but you remember that one series where it looked like they were running the wish. I still don't know to that day. And it was negative yards 3 times. It's and I'm no offensive coordinator.
Yeah, right before the half, man. That gave me. I was pulling my hair out right before the half. I mean,
at least you have hair. I don't. So I couldn't pull it out. But
yeah, you wouldn't have had it after that day because we go to the air 3 times and we only run off, I think, 13 seconds off the clock to give Alcorn the ball back, and they go down and they score, and that changes the game. So it's stuff like that that makes the Jaguar Nation kind of frustrated with the offensive play call.
Yeah, because there is a slogan floating around, and I think this is maybe the 8th time I'm going to say it, maybe the 9th, Atlanta or bust. But,
right.
Hey, it's one game at a time. I understand that. But one says more than none. But, expectations are always high. And now you got UAPB in the West and Prairie View. But Prairie View A&M, I've never seen just a fiery start. Could have very well defeated Rice. I think everybody would agree with that. You defeat North Carolina Central, and basically you're on explosive octane. And then you hit, and to Michael Prince's credit, I predicted Prairie View to win a football game last year, and he was like, whoa, wait a minute. The rest is history. The unveiling of Skelton, and you got it. How much pressure, in your opinion, is there on Prairie View A&M to start fast again, but sustain?
I think there's a lot. I think a lot of people from Prairie View was excited when it started the season a year ago. I mean, if you look at not only the football team, I'm doing the select running back series. Look at the one you took. He's the nation's leading rusher.
Yeah.
After the first month of play, looked like he was going to be, hands down, so like offensive player of the year with the Taxman Award. And all of a sudden, after Southern, man, it was just a different Prairie View squad. And Mike Prince, to his credit, he kept saying it. You guys are going to see it. You guys are going to see it. And I was like, man, I think something might be wrong with Mike. From what I'm seeing,
in the trenches, that's what he said. And
and what he said, it came into fruition. I mean, losing to Southern the way that you did is one thing, but to go out and that loss to Jackson State was unexplainable. Played a little bit better against Alcorn, but lost that game. It was just like, man, preview to the football things. And I think he's going to really, I think the microscope is going to be on Prairie View now, because now they're wondering, year 2 under Dooley, are you the coach that we saw? Is this a football team that we saw in the first half, or what we saw in the second half? Is that what's really you? So I think people going to wonder that, and I think you'll get an answer this year. Yeah.
Okay, we may have had a technical challenge with Carlos, but I did not cut him off. I promise you, I didn't cut him off. You still there, right, BJ?
Yeah.
The trench game is so vital, and I think that's one of the great advantages that the portal has done for our schools. It has given us a great opportunity to get some guys that could make a huge impact in the trench game. And I think right now they're crying foul right now because of all of these guys that are going. Now they're saying they need to wait a year before they can actually be eligible to play. Going back to Prairie View, if Prairie View can get any beef up front, man, I don't question the skill positions with anyone in this conference or beyond on what they're capable of doing, but they got to have time to get it done.
Yeah. I mean, the game is won and lost up front. You can have all the shiny pieces you want, but if you're not getting it done up front, all that means nothing.
Absolutely. We're listening to Carlos Brown Show live. Apparently, our host has some type of technical difficulty right now, but we're on live with Brother B.J. Jones. And B.J., what you're talking about Prairie View and the pressure being on Dooley, there was an internal move with the offensive coordinator, Ted White, who's moved on to the XFL. He'll be with the Washington franchise. What impact do you think that has on the developmental of the scheme and preparation, even though it's still before the season workouts or the preseason workouts? What type of impact does that have with your OC moving on so late in the game?
And I think anytime you have that, it's an adjustment period for the players, because you're accustomed to one type of terminology. You learn the system, you know the system, and then all of a sudden now you're going to have a new coach, new way of doing things, new terminology. It can have an impact. But I will say this, Ted White, great coach. I will say that a year ago, some of his play calling got predictable. I remember writing an article on how you stopped the offense, the Prairie View offense a year ago, and everyone came to me and was like, "Did you send that over to Odoms?" Because it was almost like the defensive game plan was exactly what I wrote. Sometimes a year ago, Ted White got a little bit predictable, and sometimes that can happen. I don't know what's going on internally, but anytime you make that offensive coordinator change and you make it, late in the game, it can take a while before kids can get comfortable in the new system. And it's going to be interesting to see what the new OC does down at Prairie View.
Well, right now, I believe the OC position is still going to be vacant. And to me, it'd be a perfect fit for Dooley just to go ahead and call the plays. That's what he's done for 22 years. Well, not 22, but most of his coaching career was the OC responsibilities. So that'll be another hat he would add on. But he just made a pickup with a grad assistant to help probably brunt some of the other duties where he can focus on play calling and that. But that will yet to be seen. So I think as far as that piece goes, it will be very easy to transition over. But we got to remember, too, that Ted White also was the quarterback's coach. So it was a 2-for-1 deal with him moving on.
Yeah, he did. I thought when Morton came out and played a year ago, he did a great job with Morton. Morton came out strong. I mean, he got a little cold towards the middle of the year and towards the end, but I thought he didn't play like a 3 at the beginning of the season. He came back down to earth, back to life, back to reality towards the middle of the year. But I thought that Ted White did a good job capitalizing on what Morton did well.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see if he's the QB this year, because I think you guys have a little quarterback battle down there.
It's not a little quarterback battle. You have 4 quarterbacks that were in the spring. You got another quarterback coming in the fall. Right now, you have DJ Starks, the transfer that was coming in. A lot of expectations on him. But then Jalen Morton is saying not so fast. And then we can't forget Nico Hollis, who left, came back, and he started out at number 4, moved up to number 3 on the depth chart. And if the truth be told, he could end up being number 1 come August 31st. He's looked that good. He's lost 25 pounds. He's lighter on his feet. He's not your prototypical Dooley quarterback. If that were the case, out of the ones that I just mentioned, it would be DJ Starks and even Connolly, who currently is at number 4, who was at number 3, but because of the progression of Nico on his quest to return to greatness, it's going to be very interesting to see how this thing unfolds in the next few weeks.
Oh yeah, very interesting. I think that camp battle, I think that's going to be one of the most paid attention to and publicized, camp battles around the SWAC this particular season.
All right, it appears that Brother Carlos is back. You back, big guy?
Yes, sir. I had to step away. I appreciate you filling in for me, and it's going to be interesting. This whole race, as far as the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Brandon, if I can, for next week, we'll save our MEAC predictions from you. But if I could, and if you can, I understand, can you at this time, are you ready to kind of make a prediction of how it's going to go in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, or do you need a little more time?
If I have to do it off the fly, I will tell you in the East, I think Valley finishes in the 5 spot, Bama State in the 4 spot, Jackson State in the 3, Alabama A&M in the 2. I like Alcorn to win the division on that side. I think that Alcorn has so much coming back. It's tough to see anyone beating them in the East or West, to be honest with you. Alcorn has a lot of talent coming back. I think people will be amazed if you read some of these publications. And I'll have some of mine coming out soon, just how much talent Alcorn State brings back. Over in the West, I got the UAPB in the 5 spot, Texas Southern in the 4 spot. I got Prairie View in the 3, Grambling State in the 2, Southern in the 1. Southern, much like Alcorn, has a lot of talent that's returning, and also brought a lot of talent in during the off season. There's been some staff changes for Southern University. Coach Washington, the new defensive coordinator. Dalvin Cotton will be an impact transfer on that defensive line. And I think that Southern got there a year ago, and I think that this is the season that Coach Odoms was pointing to a year ago about 2019. Unfinished business. I think that this could turn out to be a special year for Southern University. They can get that Alcorn monkey off their back. It could be a special year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, according to your prediction, they will face each other twice. And that's the case. Again, many that I've talked to, it's Atlanta or bust. So that's how a lot of people are feeling. Make note of it. Alcorn State returns a lot of talent. And I talk to some Alcornites often, pretty often. They seem to be more concerned with Southern University. Southern's concerned with Alcorn State, so you can't let anybody slip up. You got to take them one game at a time. It will be interesting, BJ. It will be very interesting. Appreciate the time. If we can get you on next week, we'll take a look at the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. And I'll simply say North Carolina A&T. North Carolina A&T.
Well, man, it's a pleasure. Like always, talking to you, man. Looking forward to next week already.
All right. Appreciate the time. Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Going to take a quick time out. Going to complete the guest menu with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. He'll join me for the rest of the show. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hi, I'm a Unity member of...
Are you looking for an affordable way to increase your business? Let the Open Mic Broadcast Network lead the way. For a customized, affordable ad campaign, call 832-213-8824.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster on the air or behind the scenes who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
Welcome back to the final segment of today's Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Listeners are pointing in messages as we speak. Let me introduce the final guest of today's show, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning, Carlos. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Can't complain.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, wouldn't do any good anyway if you complain. My last guest, we were kind of talking about some of the predictions, how you think it's going to be played out at SWAC Football Media Day, and just got a text message from a listener. If PV finishes third in the Western Division, Fred Washington, Coach Dooley will start hearing frustration and doubt in the fan base. Wow. Well, I mean, I say wow, but every fan base, you have those, Charles, who will get excited. Then they also get very frustrated if things don't go well. But Brandon B.J. Jones says Alcorn State will be the team to beat. They will be picked first. Overall, they'll be picked to win it again. Got a lot of talent coming back. The pressure is all on everybody else, according to some, Charles.
Yeah, I think, for the Braves, clearly, they've been the gold standard the last few years and what they have been able to do and what Fred McNair's been able to do. You got Noah Johnson coming back as quarterback. You got Deshaun Waller, running back, so the system's not going to change, even though we have a new offensive coordinator. The system will remain the same. So you're going to be looking at Noah on that read option, and you know what Southern fans know what could happen defensively when when you don't contain the great running game. You know all about that, Carlos. 400 yards rush.
Give it to him, Charles. Give it to him, man.
I mean, I say that facetiously. I say it as a joke, but I know for Southern fans, the Jaguar Nation, that's not funny. But I think we can joke about it right now because the season hasn't started yet, and you don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, clearly, Alcorn number one. I think I would put Southern as number two, clearly because they have their quarterback. We know what their quarterback is. We know who it is. This time last year, we didn't know that. We didn't know who Southern's quarterback was going to be. Dawson Odom's made that known pretty much. We didn't know who Gramblin's quarterback was going to be this time last year with Kincaid leaving. And, right now we would say Hickbotham, but we'll talk to Coach Files in a couple of weeks, and, maybe Hickbotham will emerge as the quarterback. And, other than that, I mean, there's a lot of storylines out there in terms of, what teams are going to do. Coach Hendricks, year one, officially year one of his regime. JSU getting a Florida transfer. How is he going to do? Prairie View. I mean, I hope Prairie View fans are a little more patient because I do think.
Wow.
I know that. Well, look.
No. I'm responding to Brother Prince in the background, but go ahead, continue.
I mean, just based on what I saw with Prairie View last year, Prairie View's running game was not what I thought it would be, and I think that really hurt the quarterback position. I mean, they're really going to have to, improve that. There's no question that Prairie View can score points, but it's got to be a little bit more consistent as the year went on. I think teams kind of figured them out, and I think that big win by selling over Prairie View last year flipped the script for the Panthers, and they were never the same team. I mean, let's call that what it is, because that's what happened.
Can I interject something? And I'm going to be very brief. O-line and defensive line in the trenches.
Yeah.
Big for Prairie View. And also, I have a friend who's moving to Texas and had lunch with Coach Dooley, because Coach Dooley's from Louisiana. And his comment was over lunch, and this will put it in perspective. He said what Southern and Alcorn showed him in this program is we've got to get better quickly in the trenches. And I believe Brother Prince will agree with that as well, because before that Prairie View and Southern game, he told me he thought Southern was much stronger in the trenches than Prairie View and them.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you look at Dooley, when he was at Grambling, when he had Kincaid, when they had Carter, and they had that great running attack, clearly up front was the key. And, for Alcorn, up front is the key. When you run the system that they run, you were exactly right. And we all know you have to have the beef up front to make it happen. And I think that clearly was an issue for the Panthers, last season. So, I mean, look, I think that you look at the SWAC, you look at the top tier teams, we know who those are. But I was thinking about this the other day. I mean, if you want to rate the teams, I put on Facebook what my predictions were, East and West. Someone put out, who you think's going to do what in the divisions. And of course, I picked Alcorn in the East. I picked Southern over Grambling in the West. And surprisingly, I know this might surprise some, but I think in the West, I picked UAPB over Texas Southern. I picked UAPB 4, Texas Southern 5, only because Cedric Thomas is a second-year head coach. He's been in this thing a little bit, and Texas Southern's got a little bit of work to do, a lot of work to do. Even though what you're reading is that they're getting some fairly decent players in, first-year head coach, new scheme, new system. So I would put UAPB slightly above Texas Southern on the western side. But in the East, Alcorn, clearly I think Jackson State has kind of solidified themselves as number 2, in my opinion. We'll see what this quarterback's going to do. They got to get a running game. I will put Alabama A&M over Bama State, number 3, even though Bama State seems to be, getting some pretty decent talent. And then Valley, I think, is improving from what I'm seeing on their recruiting list, that they're getting some better talent, but that's going to take a little time for them to kind of come out of the bottom. So that's my prediction on the Eastern side.
Yeah, interesting. A listener who's just joined us, I appreciate it. He's from the Alcorn State persuasion. Good morning. Will SU be able to stop the run this year? Go Braves. My goodness. That is the most interesting yet simple question. And when you talk to Coach McNair, I love him to death at SWAC Media Day. He's very reserved, at least to me. Charles, you know him better.
Yeah.
And he calls me Coach. I'm no coach, but that happens quite often. Coach, we basically just, and I can confirm this, he basically used the term, we basically just use a few basic plays. We do what we do. We're going to run the football. And that's it. There's no secret. And also, this Alcorn Knight says Alcorn may have the best O-line in the SWAC, maybe HBCU football. Look, I get it. I was there. The fireworks. Walking out the stadium, Charles, it was very humbling. It really was. Great atmosphere. Who wants that smoke? You hear that all the time. It is what it is. Alcorn has proven it. Grambling State University, they have the championship pedigree. Southern is probably the best second-place team in the conference, or finishing second, but there's improvement there. Can they get it done? Can they kick the championship door in? Also, who has the most pressure? And I say it's Alabama A&M, because I'm hearing every year how, even before Maynard got there, how this was going to be their year. They're the dark horse. I'm not going to even say that anymore. And then I think Prairie View's under some pressure. So would you agree that the teams that are under the most pressure, and you notice I didn't say Southern University, duh, we know that, but Alabama and them at Prairie View.
I'm going to go off the grid a little bit. I'm going to go off the grid a little bit. I have to agree. I think the coach that's probably under the most pressure is Coach Ely at Alabama State. And the reason why I say that is because he was still a part of the Brian Jenkins regime. Remember, he was on Brian Jenkins' staff. He was elevated as interim head coach after the Alcorn loss. They won 5 out of their last 6 games. But then they didn't have a particularly good year last year. They lost to Alabama A&M in the Magic City. And I do think, just my own opinion, that privately and quietly, some people are saying, you know what, we got to make another move in terms of moving up in the standings, because Coach Ely is still under the old regime, the old guard. So I think there's some pressure. I think there's a lot of pressure on Alabama State's head coach to at least improve and, number one, beat Alabama A&M in the Magic City, because that's all that matters on that end from Alabama State fans as well as A&M. When you talk to them, it's all about the Magic City. So I think, number one, that coach is under the most pressure. And then I would say, secondly, a distant second, I think Coach Dooley, even though in my own opinion, I think you got to give him another full year just to see. Because if you look at the conference right now, just where teams are, you look at where Alcorn is. Noah Johnson, this is last year. You look at Grambling. Grambling's still trying to, I think they have their quarterback. Southern has their quarterback. And unless Prairie View gets a little bit better in the running game and in the trenches, it's going to be tough sledding for Prairie View. And Prairie View has to come to Alcorn. That game's going to be on television. If Prairie View doesn't beat Alcorn, they're going to be taking a step back, and then who knows where the season's going to go from there, because we've seen that when the Panthers take a step back, it's usually more than one step back, because we saw that last year when they were the talk of the HBCU football world for the first month. They were scoring 1 million points a game.
Don't say it. Don't say it, Charles. I know what you said. I can't say it. When they were hitting them out, it was all over. So we'll see if
what happens this season. I think that's the excitement of it all. Is the honeymoon over for Coach Dooley? I mean, I still think that fans just need to be a little bit more patient, even though that's easier said than done for a lot of people.
And technically, that's 35.
I think I really think this time next year, after you see how this season goes, we'll have a clearer picture. You know, hey, TV alums and fans, if they're getting frustrated, let's see how frustrated they are after this season. Because don't kid yourself, Coach Dooley's going to try to he's going to try to rejuvenate himself when he comes to A.W. Mumford Stadium. That's one game I'm sure is penciled on that schedule. And as I've always stated, Alabama State and Prairie View, they may be better teams, but they have if you look at their schedule, it's tough. I mean, you know, so does Alcorn. Alcorn may start off 1-2, but it's not the end of the season, and it may not be the end of the season for Prairie View as well. But Alabama State, to your point, a lot of pressure on Coach Ely. But if you look, have you seen Alabama State's schedule? It's like he's doomed already. Just take a look at it.
Yeah, I do need to look. I have not seen Alabama State's schedule.
Yeah.
Well, I just know that, you know, when you talk to Alabama State fans and you talk to Alabama A&M fans, they talk about one game, even though it's the whole body of work. It's about the Magic City. And, you know, we have to go to Alabama State this year. It's never easy to play over at Hornet Stadium. I mean, we were very fortunate to win over there 2 years ago. I think, you know, Coach Jenkins got an unsportsmanlike conduct on a drive in which Bama State could have made it a one-score game when we played them over there. They punched that thing in after we had a big lead. Who knows? But Coach Jenkins lost his cool. He got unsportsmanlike, took his team out of field goal range. That was it. That was in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, going over there, they always bring a lot of energy. They always have a lot of passionate fans. But I think for Coach Ely, he's under, I think there's some pressure for him only because, I mean, if he were hired fresh, I don't think there would be. But because he's a part of the old guard, the Brian Jenkins regime, I think there's some pressure. I think fans are saying, you know what, we kept this coach that was on the previous staff, and the previous coach didn't win, and he's gone. I mean, so, you know, why don't we just wipe the slate clean and start over? I mean, if you do that, you take a step back. I think fans are probably a little more patient when that happens. But I would say give Coach Dooley another year. I know Dr. Prince probably disagrees with me on that. Coach Dooley clearly has the pedigree. Huh?
Why would he? He's safe. He's safe.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is. But, you know, I think, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
In all due fairness, I hear you loud and clear about the Alabama State situation, and Ely is under the gun. But I think for things other than you with this last year, because he's in a lame situation right now, the final year of his 2-year deal. But if two coaches that I really feel are going to be under the most pressure are going to be Eric Dooley and Clarence McKinney. Even though not technically they're going to be in job jeopardy. Now, the bells will ring hard in PV Nation because of it is what it is. But when you look at the Clarence McKinney situation, he's coming in. It's his first year, and it's almost similar to that of the Dooley situation. He is one of the top, if not the top paid football coach in the conference. They got him in the neighborhood of $340,000, $350,000. And to whom much is given, much is required. And right now,
the streets with gold.
Right now, far as I'm concerned, our theme song at Prairie View needs to be India Irie stuck in the middle, because we've been at third place. It's almost like clockwork that's where we finish. And so there is some pressure. You know, they say when the more you invest, the more you expect on your return. So now, I've been doing a weekly countdown of the season, and I actually think that Prairie View is going to have some success against Southern this year, for the simple fact that Dooley wants to redeem himself from the embarrassing, and here come 36 time, the embarrassing loss that he received in a place that everybody knows, that understands and follow this level of football, that he has a great adoration for. And he's going to come back to Baton Rouge with a chip on his shoulder to prove that he's a better coach in preparing his team. And that's why I think Prairie's going to pull it off in Baton Rouge.
And I understand that. That's why I would hit him as soon as he get off the bus. Not figuratively, but from a mental standpoint. Yeah. And to your point, Coach Odom seems to have much more. Put it this way, it's a tougher game when it's in A.W. Mumford Stadium. Under another coach, Willie Simmons, last time they came, controversial call or missed call, what have you. So you're going to expect the best. Let me squeeze this in. A listener says, I think the pressure's on Odom's and Alabama State coach. Peavy's coach is next in line. Thanks, M.E. Boy, we're running out of time here, but let's see. What one quick one? New day in the SWAC. Every coach in the SWAC is on the clock by the fan base in one way or the other. I'm still talking about. I still want to see smoke. So I'm arrogant. I'm not. You can't duck all corn, but to me, Southern's move and what they've done, their motivate. It should all be about, and that's not disrespecting any opponent. But I point to that Alcorn game. I'm going to tell you, that's a humbling experience. Walking in fireworks, shooting out, and the fans coming up to you and saying, some fun things. That would be the motivation enough for me. But that's just me talking. As we close this thing up, I think we got 2 minutes or less. Go ahead, Charles. Yeah. Last word.
Well, Carlos, to your point about Bama State, you are exactly right. I'm looking at the schedule now. UAB, Tuskegee, Kennesaw State, Grambling, Alcorn, the first 5 games. It may be a done deal by the time they go to Jackson October 12th in the Magic City. You're exactly right. I never saw their schedule until right now. So you're exactly right. They got a beast in the first month of the season. And if they don't get out of that, it's going to be a long 2/3 of the season going forward.
Charles, we'll talk with you next week. Appreciate your insight as usual. I want to thank Charles Edmond, Dr. Prince, Coach Lunda Wells, Coach Van Pettaway, everyone who listened in. Once again, thank you. All your thoughts and prayers on the passing of my father, Reverend Herbert C. Brown Sr. Until next Saturday at 10 a.m., make sure you join me for another edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until that time, as always, peace and God bless.